Thanks for staying with us, everyone. You're watching What Now as we discuss the military purge in Mali after the coup in August 2025, and then South Sudan's leadership reshuffle also in the military. And we're looking at what that means for just the broader governance in Africa. We've been speaking with Paul Ejime, who is who is an international journalist. I don't think ever former journalist, an international journalist and communications consultant. And also we have Dr. David Matsanga, who is a political commentator and Pan-African strategist. Thank you, gentlemen, for staying with us. Just before the break, Paul Ejime, you were speaking to the internal crisis. I'll just give you another 2 minutes to wrap that up so we can bring in Dr. Matsanga.
Yes, I'm glad that you have corrected yourself that there is no former journalist.
Absolutely. It was a journalist, always a journalist.
I am still a reporter, actually a reporter. I reported war before, and then war has never ceased in the world. So anyway, back to what we were discussing. The internal crisis, like I mentioned, is this inability to manage our, diversity and concentrate on not get distracted by other things, but concentrating to make the people deliver on what is the governance is about. Is to make the life of your people better, to secure them from internal and external aggression, to provide for them education, hospital services, infrastructure, and all that. These people have failed to do. Yes, there is internal interference. But, in my place, they say the rat at home that tells the rat in the bush that there is somewhere food in the house. So I'm not going to dwell on the fact that these people are trying to meddle in our affairs. They will always do so. The onus and responsibility becomes for us Africans to not be diverted, because some of them are doing what they are doing because they cannot be trusted. There is mutual mistrust in Africa. They would rather put the money they are stealing from their country in foreign banks. And the governments of these banks, they know. And so they hold them at ransom. They use blackmail. That is what is happening. So we are responsible for both the internal and then external interference is what is happening in Africa. And we should stop and think, what is it that is happening that after 60 years, anyway, South Sudan is not up to that. But the others are more than 60 years of so-called independence. Right. Why are we still bemoaning the fact of, yes, we know that during colonialism, during slave trade and others, we suffered. But we cannot begin to dwell on that we do not now think about our future.
All right, let me quickly bring in, absolutely, and just where you landed is where I want to bring in Dr. Matsanga from, thinking about our future. And many would say that, look, the African Union, Dr. Matsanga, seem to be missing in all of this. Paul Ejime also spoke to the loopholes. He talked about, he used the African proverb, it is the rat that it's in the house that tells the one outside that there's something there. I mean, when you look at the DR Congo, it is the neighboring countries that are the challenge and not necessarily foreign interference. And so what does that say about, just the African Union and its ability to hold the continent together?
My sister, do you know the word called D-E-A-D? D-E-A-D, dead. African Union is dead. It's captured. It's on paper. You are talking about what? This guy, the chairperson of African Union, likes meetings and photos. But if you ask him exactly what he has to do to solve these problems, he can't. He has never been to Mali. He has never gone there to say, let's talk about how you come back to democracy. They haven't. African Union is dead. Think about something else. To Matsanga, don't tell him about African Union, because I lost hope. I lost hope. I've been singing, and I think you have seen me on several television stations. Paul, you have seen me singing about African Union. I've gone to say, what do we do if Nyerere, Sekuture woke up from their graves and saw what is happening at Addis Ababa? They will just die twice. First of all, there is no African Union which can spearhead us anywhere. African Union is the rat inside, tells Qatar, come and help us. Let's use Paulo's analogy. The rat, come and help us in Congo. How can you ask someone when you are the continent which should hold power and say, come, Qatar, can you come and sit here? We want you to help to do ABCD. This is our process. We follow instead of them following us. So African Union, cut it off. Let me come to what do we do in the future? What do we need to do? 40 years ago,
Dr. Matanga, I would let you speak to that in just a moment. I want to bring it again, Paul Ejime, because as we wrap now, I have about 4 minutes left. I'll split between both of you, maybe 2 minutes. Cameroon will be voting. I mean, the election is on October 12th, which is, I think, Wednesday. Saturday. And then I'm wondering what you make of Paul Biya, who is running again after how many years in office, and what that means, again, as you also make your recommendations in terms of how we proceed from here, what that means for that country, and how do we proceed from here as a continent?
Not just the country, but the whole of the continent, because he represents the poster boy of what is happening in Africa. That we are here, we have millions of young people who have bright ideas, but they are not allowed to take up 92 or 93. He's even campaigning on with using status. He can't stand. He's not aware of where he is. The wrong country is running on autopilot. He spends much of his time in Switzerland. So is that the kind of thing that Africa wants? Africa, many people in Cameroon, they have never known any other leader. In fact, Africa as a whole, you ask anybody, any history student in Africa, they have always known Paul Biya as the president. After he took over from the independent president. So that is not, even if you have all the ideas, you cannot monopolize intelligence or governance. Leave the stage for others to try their luck. Because that is what we have seen. Third term syndrome, sit tight people in government in power, and so on, and corruption, and so on and so forth. It's not helping any country, it's not helping the continent, and it will not help anybody. So unless they change and then begin to govern, African leaders are not governing. They are taking care of themselves against at the expense of their people.
All right, I want to give the last few minutes a minute or two thereabout to Dr. Matanga, as you also get your thought on the election in Cameroon, and then how do we again proceed from here as a continent in terms of governance?
First of all, let me make my stand that 40 years ago, China was the poorest country on the continent of Africa with one rice scheme in my country, Uganda. Paulo, you know that. And they were feeding on our rice halfway. Today, China went back. Africa needs to go back to renaissance. We need a renewal. Everybody in Africa needs a renewal. Even in Nigeria, where you are, you need a renewal. Unless you go back to a drawing board, we are in trouble. Two, on the question of Mr. Paulo, there are some names that make me cry tears, like a Paulo Biya in the book in Cameroon. This is a man, and the African Union has sent their observers. You are observing elections over dead bodies. Commonwealth, I am the one who has said Cameroon should be sent out of Commonwealth. The King of England cannot sit and watch people doing an election over dead bodies, people kidnapped, abducted, taken, jailed for life. We have 10 professors who were abducted from Abuja, the Nera 10. Paulo, you know that. They were taken, sentenced to life. They are there, political prisoners, 3,000 of them. So what election are you talking about? Which Dr. Matanga, don't let me, there are some countries I don't want to hear on Africa. In fact, I regret why I was even born black, because I shouldn't have been either purple and stayed somewhere. Some countries in Africa are a shame, like Paul Biya. He doesn't even know whether he's in Washington or he's in Yaoundé. He said, where am I? And he wants power. At least for me in my country, my president knows where he is. He doesn't, he's still there. He knows. Thank you very much. Oh, there is no election sister, let me finish.
We do have to. You have just a few seconds.
There is no election in Cameroon. There is a blood-stained election in Cameroon. Full stop.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matsanga, who is a political commentator and Pan-African strategist, and also Paulie Jimmy, who is an international journalist and communications consultant. Thank you to both of you. Your passion for the continent shines through your analysis. A pleasure to have you both.
Thank you very much for calling.
I hope my brother will not be angry with my own poll. I hope you with all the polls.
No, I do have to leave it there. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. You've been watching What Now? This is a program on TVC News where we look at African affairs, international affairs, as well as geopolitics. I am Precious Amayu. Thank you so much for watching.